take a few moments of your time for this interview. So, I would first like you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. So thanks, Rhythm. Thanks for having me. First of all, being on these hallowed grounds, you have no idea in terms of what chills are going down my spine. So more than you, I'm actually thankful to have this really warm welcome to be back on campus because it really matters to me. Um, Very quickly, again, my name is Rahul Mehendale. I graduated in 91. So it's been about 23 years now. Oh, sorry, 33 years now. Jeez, I'm dating myself. Um, and I had one of the most finest times here. After Sanjeewan, I studied in Pune, so I was at Ferguson. I did my engineering after that at MIT. And in 97, I left the country. So about 27 years ago, I left the country to pursue a master's at the University of Wisconsin in Madison in the US. I worked in the auto sector after that, and then I was extremely fortunate to be selected to do my MBA at Harvard Business School. And post that, I did a stint in management consulting. So as for those of you who are trying to learn about different vocations, consulting is about strategy. Consulting is more about helping people come up with strategic plans. How do you navigate into the future? Things of that nature. So I helped found what we call the disruptive innovation practice at a fairly large firm, actually the world's largest privately held firm called Deloitte. And post that, so I did that for a few years, and then I left Deloitte to do my third startup. That company was a company called My Skin, where we were the first in the world to have figured out how to quantify skin health. So right now people they look at they may take insulin, but you need the quantification in terms of how much sugar is in your blood, right? Or people may take statins for cholesterol, but you need to know how much cholesterol is. You need quantified metrics which help you define the health of the organ. Eyes, 20/20 vision. It's a quantified metric. But skin, nobody had realized that the largest organ of our body didn't really have metrics which would help us define the health of the organ, right? And we all care about our skin. So if, let's say, people use a moisturizer and you ask them, how much moisture is good for your skin? Most people don't know. Right? So that, long story short, that was the hard problem we solved. We built a global company, and then I got a large strategic investment from this German company, $19 billion annual revenue German company called Evonik. So I decided to transition out. And more recently, I led the Future of Health efforts, which is all about innovation at the cutting edge of biology and medicine at Deloitte. But then I recently transitioned out, and I'm now leading a 15-person startup in the lifestyle modification space to rectify, correct diseases like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative diseases, and other things. So that's my background in a snippet.
Okay, so my first question is for you. Could you please share a few memories of your time in Sanjeewan?
Wow. Lots. That's a tricky question because now I have to pick a few, right? I would probably, if I were to pick 3 unique experiences, I think they would center around the people, primarily my classmates, teachers, a lot around that. Secondly, I would pick a few experiences around the facilities and the impact that it had on my own personal development. And thirdly, I would pick up certain, extracurriculars which formed my character and my personality. So on those 3, first of all, from a people perspective, I think my classmates, number 1, have been hugely motivational. The experiences, the global spread, and I didn't realize this when I was in school, that this was an exceptional group of compatriots. But 10 years down the road after graduating, you see these people who are, look at it. I'm here today because one of my classmates, he made the personal kind of sacrifice. I stole his car and I came, at a minute's notice. After contacting him after literally tens of years, right? I was like, hey, I need to go to Sanjeewan. He's like, take my car. I'm like, dude, I haven't even met you. So again, this camaraderie that exists, the people at school at that time, how they motivated me to study, how they motivated me to do well at sports, how they motivated me into extracurriculars, that really matters a lot. And how we just had fun for 2 years being in the dorms. It was just one of the most fun experiences. Right? So that was one aspect of people. But the second important aspect was also the teachers. Right? Because they really imparted a huge sense of confidence in my class and for people like me. Right? Because they were always engaging, they were always passionate, they were always extremely good at giving us attention to shape our character, to respond to what we needed. From an academic perspective, this was home. Like we didn't live in our homes. This was home for us. We were, the faculty were like our parents, and the classmates, my dorm mates were like my siblings. This was home. This was the real family. I mean, one of my classmates made a very poignant comment where he said, Rahul, this was family, not what we had back home. And it made me pause, right? So I think that's the people perspective. The second thing I mentioned was around facilities, right? So at that time, having a multi-purpose hall where we could play badminton, but being on stage, I mean, the first comment these kids have heard was this debate which I had, and even after 33 years now, people still remember it. And I mean, the exposure through these facilities, I remember the amphitheater which was right here. I remember, the brilliant athletic facilities and the exposure. I mean, we were watching the Olympics, and I had actually done high jump. I've actually done javelin. I've actually done hurdles. And to have that, most people, not even the top 1% in India, have that sort of an exposure. And that facility, the exposure, leads to a dramatic impact in your ability to relate to what's happening across the world in terms of different things. Right? So I think that facilities and how you can leverage them to your advantage is going to have a lasting opinion, a lasting imprint. And the third was, I think, these extracurricular experiences, right? So being able to speak, simple, being able to speak in front of an audience. I already talked about the debates, right? Even today, when I meet with people across India, I tell them, oh, you're Bengali, I actually can sing Ore Grovabashi. And they light up. It's so funny how my kids now learn that you have to be able to say a few things in every language. And that was probably imparted here. And the instant connections that it leads to. I never realized the impact when I was in school. And today, I value it greatly. Because now I realize the implications of what I learned at school. It wasn't just about standing there and singing Ore Grovabashi. Today, whether it's a Bangladeshi or it's a West Bengali, and I say, oh, I know Rabindranath Tagore's, I know an entire song in Bangla. And they go, oh, how do you? And then, oh yeah, I also knew an entire song in Punjabi. And people go, wow. Right? So again, these sort of extracurricular opportunities which exist dramatically influence your ability to connect with people and give you a huge sense of confidence. And in those are some particular memories which, again, on the spot, that come to my mind when I think about Sanjeewan.
Wow, that was a really interesting answer. Now I would like to ask you, so compared to the work culture in India, like how do you believe the US is different?
This is like a philosophical question, right? So I will probably categorize it slightly along a couple of different parameters, right? So I think first one is I will call out a culture which appreciates failure. So there's a cultural element. Second is I would probably classify it along the parameter of professionalism. And thirdly, from a work culture perspective, right? I would call it out as more entrepreneurial, right? So I would say that those are probably the key differences from my perspective. So on the first part, culture, the US culture is very open to failure. So I've done multiple startups, and thankfully, they didn't fail. But one of my friends, we were just talking about Sal Khan at Khan Academy. If you have heard of Khan Academy,
Yes.
I know Sal for whatever, and he was what I call a successive failure. He was trying to start hedge funds for years, and I remember sitting in his room, and he's like, Rahul, now this is my 4th attempt, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere, which is why he started making videos to teach his niece, on things. But the ability to be able to fail and celebrate failure and build on top of that, it's very dramatically celebrated in the US. Nobody wears failure on their, they wear it with pride. Oh, I tried this 20 times. You know what? 20 times I failed. Success is built on failure. And I don't mean failing in your grades. It means being able to push yourself beyond the norm and then struggling and falling short. It's not underperforming by nature. It is being able to extend, promising to do. If you think you're being able to do 100%. You should shoot for 120%, and if you get 115, you still fail. But you build on that sort of failure. And sometimes you'll get 50%. But to consistently drive yourself, I think that's the cultural difference. So I think that's number one. Number two is professionalism, right? In the US, it's very much you do what you say. If you say I'm going to do something, nobody ever questions you and says, hey, have you done it? If somebody asks me, have you done it? A warning sign goes off, because that basically means that the person doubts either I'm not communicating right or I'm not delivering. Here, you have to follow up with people a lot, and it's very different for me. So I think that's the second part, from a professionalism perspective. So I think that's the second part, and then the third is entrepreneurial. So in the US, I think the work culture really, it lets you experiment with different things and really push the edge. Like, don't do what everybody else is doing. Craft your own path, and it's okay. Do come up with different things. And actually, Sanjeewan really helped me. I was just telling, at that time, 33 years ago, my biology teacher used to give us notes in class. And one day I went up to her and I said, you know what, ma'am, I don't think I want to take notes. She was shocked. She said, Rahul, what are you talking about? I said, you know what, ma'am, you give the same notes that are in the textbook. I said, I might as well read the textbook. Why should I waste my time sitting in your class taking notes? Now, she could have taken it two ways. This was very entrepreneurial because I was taking a big risk. Right? Yes. Entrepreneurship is about taking risks, but you have to back it with certain things, with certain promises that you will deliver. I said, you know what, you don't worry. I assure you that I will put my best effort in biology. And I said, you go with me. And she said, you know what, okay, we can try it out as an experiment. She said, for the next 2 weeks, don't take any notes. And, I'm willing to tolerate or humor you on this front. If you have any questions, my door is open. This is what I say, come up with different things. Just because everybody else is taking notes doesn't mean you have to constrain yourself. And when you speak to people properly, with respect, with the right attitude, they respond in the same way. But that's a very entrepreneurial culture. Actually, I learned it here. But that's what has helped me in the US. So I think from those perspectives, being able to experiment, do that. And just for the record, I got 40 out of 40 at my 10th grade in my biology. I still remember because I taught my class at that time. And then I carried that lesson to MIT when I was doing my engineering, and I did the same thing in my operations research class. When I told the teacher, I said, I don't want to attend your classes. He was the principal of the college at that time. I mean, he was like, you know.
French also, you were the highest.
French also I got 93. I actually
93
remember.
out of 100. I was his French teacher too.
French teacher.
English, geography, and French.
Yes. So yeah, I think those are the differences that come to mind.
Now, my final question to you is, what message do you have for the students of the school, like who are studying right now?
So I think the education has to be valued along three fronts. So what are you going to gain at Sanjeewan? And I'm going to ask myself, if I were talking to myself when I was in school year, what would I have liked to hear that will help me get the best out of this experience and help me frame what Sanjeewan is going to add to my life? I think probably three things that would come up from that perspective. As you notice, I like things in threes. So I think number one, Sanjeewan will give you a really strong analytical framework. Life is about making decisions in vague environments. And you need a good framework of analytics. We analyze, you will notice we make certain decisions based on this imperfect information every day. What time we wake up, hey, am I going to run to class, or now I need to go to sports and it's raining, and there are all these chaotic things that are happening amongst us, right? And that framework of analysis which you will learn here will take you into your vocations, it will take you into future education, it will take you into life and help you navigate these vague environments much better. So that's one. Two, I think people, one of the most important things you're going to get out of Sanjeewan, that I would tell myself, the message to students, is actually your classmates. Again, as I just very clearly said, I'm here thanks to a classmate who I could call at a moment's notice and say, hey, I want to go to Sanjeewan. He's like, take my car. Right? And I think it is that set of people, today, when I need to make a call about any experience, it is just amazing. Whether it's politicians, whether it's people in education, whether it's people across industry, running companies, there's this group of people. And I never realized, whether doctors, you name an experience where you require help. There are experts on that front. And I did not realize that that's going to be this class that's around me. So do not, if I were to do one thing, I would say make sure you invest your time, resources to build strong meaningful relationships with your classmates. I think that's the second thing I'll focus on the message. And the third is what you're going to get out of Sanjeewan. And probably the most important thing, which you will probably have the least understanding or appreciation for right now, is a sense of confidence. Because life is always going to throw curveballs at you. We all go through all sorts of curveballs. And the only thing that will help you navigate those curveballs is a sense of confidence. Whether it's you having your families, whether it's events with your health, whether it's whatever that's happening in our lives, you have to approach it with confidence, despite knowing that there are no perfect answers. And in the environment, you being away from your homes, you being having the access to all these people, these facilities, and everything else, you probably do not realize that you're actually being imparted with one of the most critical assets that's going to determine success and happiness in your lives, which is this sense of confidence. So go for it, go for gold, and do well.
Thank you, sir. This interview was very informational and very helpful to all those who are watching it.
I had fun. I just had the same amount of fun. So thank you.